present, and we have a quorum.
Thank you.
Number 1 on the agenda.
Do we have any comments on item 1B?
No, sir.
Would any of my fellow commissioners like a report on that item?
No, I'll move approval of 1B.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. And we have 3 comments on item 1A.
Yes, sir.
Call those comments, please.
We have Beth Kemp, Michael Novick, and Prentice Jenkins. And this is relative to the personal expense statement of Chief of Police Charlie Beck in the amount of $1,823.37. And we also have Ebony Fay.
Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Beth Kempf. I've been a resident of Los Angeles for 6 years. I look at the budget of the LAPD, and the LAPD takes up more than 54% of the Los Angeles city budget. I don't believe that we should be paying any personal expenses of Chief Beck, especially since he is not accountable to this community. He is not accountable to the parents who have had their children lost to the Los Angeles Police Department. And he needs to show more accountability before we're paying personal expenses. There's already a big enough budget for it.
Thank you. Next speaker,
Michael Novick.
Yes, thank you. The reference to this agenda item says that Chief Beck went to a conference convening on community policing and the criminal justice system. I'm wondering if the Board of Police Commissioners is aware that in Police Chief magazine, they describe community-oriented policing as the domestic equivalent of psychological operations in the military, and that so-called community policing is part of the militarization of the police. And I think it's your responsibility to dig into what's going on in the city under the guise of so-called community policing when you have the department that for the 3rd year in a row has killed more people than any other department in the United States. That's a state of war, and that's not something that deserves to be any kind of personal expenses paid for Chief Beck to go to D.C. and strategize about how to carry out that war against the people of Los Angeles. So instead of giving Charlie Beck $1,823.37, you should fire him immediately. Thank you.
Prentice Jenkins.
Good morning.
Prentice Jenkins, morning. City Life newsletter publisher, activist since 1991. Good morning, board.
Good morning.
President Johnson, Vice President Soboroff, board. This community policing. One of the most important things about community policing is actually getting the community involved. And those of us who get involved in community policing will have a better chance at seeing not just one side, but seeing both sides. It's important to see both sides. I started as an activist back in the 90s, and I never saw both sides. I only saw one side. My side was righteous indignation, and I engaged in serious personal attacks against people. I engaged in attacks against my own activists because they said, we're not going to protest anymore. And I told them, I call them all sort of names, right? I engaged in personal attacks. Now, the reason I engaged in personal attacks is because I wanted to hurt people. And some of the things said here, you won't believe what I said, because I was a personal attacker. And my actual activists who founded the organization had to sit me down and have an intervention and say, you're down there calling black contractors who get contracts, who are coming together with white contractors getting contracts. You're down there calling the white man's niggas. What's wrong with you? You're calling white people racist. I said, well, they didn't come through our organization to get it. And they said, they don't have to come through our organization to get it, to get the contract. Listen, they got the contract. They did exactly what we're supposed to do. I'm saying that the most important thing here in community policing is having the community involved. We need to get involved. The community needs to get involved. And also, I'd like to say, I'm withdrawing any of my complaints against the Los Angeles Board of Police Commission. I understand that they did not violate my civil rights. I'd like to give this to Mr. Chief Hank.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next speaker, Ebony Fay.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Johnson.
Regarding this item, this community policing, I just really want to talk about the irony of this person, Charlie Beck, being the representative of the most murderous, as representative of the most murderous police department in the country for a few years running now. The very day after this commission, this board, found the killing and murder of Riddell Jones to be completely within policy, he was in Washington, D.C. at the White House convening on community policing. I would like to ask what type of community policing, and it is a rhetorical question. What type of community policing is it? Because it's not the kind of policing that I remember even from a little girl. Now, police departments, police law enforcement, there's always been a disparate level of brutality with communities of color, particularly black and brown folks. But I just really, really, really have issue with Charlie Beck still being chief at all. I have issue with the fact that he has not yet been fired. I have issue with the fact that his position is being undergirded by this, by these expenses being paid to him, and I really need for him to go. We are in day 50 now. Chief Beck needs to go. This board needs to recommend it because every murder that happens is blood on your hands. So if you're choosing that he's still going to be representing you, then understand that you, and you, Mr. Bustamante, are all responsible for the murders of citizens that have happened under your watch and with your sanction. So again, I renew my request that Charlie Beck be fired. He does not represent the best parts of the community in terms of what we need, in terms of what we want, what makes us feel safe, what makes us feel valued. And that's all I have to say on that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. We have no other cards on this item, sir.
Do I have a motion to approve this item?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you. We're now on item number 2, report of the Chief of Police, Chief Moore.
Commissioners, Mr. T. Fink, Mr. Bustamante, members of our
Morning.
community, good morning. On behalf of Chief Beck, I will provide the following report. As far as significant incidents and activities, this past Tuesday, we had an off-duty officer, a young police officer that was just 3 months out of the academy that was involved in a very horrific collision on his motorcycle off-duty. Myself, as well as Chief Beck and a number of other command staff, as well as his officer's classmates and his family, responded to support and assist the family. The officer, I'm happy to say, is now a week later is still in very critical condition, but his injuries were very traumatic, and he has a long road in front of him, and our thoughts and prayers are with him and his family as he goes through this recovery. Additionally, this last week, I traveled to Washington, D.C. on behalf of Chief Beck and met with Director Comey at his invitation to major city chiefs across the country. The director specific interest was in looking at violent crime trends across the country and the nation, what the chiefs believed and our analysis is as to the factors that are influencing that increase, and then most importantly, what he as a director over the Federal Bureau of Investigations could do to improve the relationship and their ability to help us with this with these statistics and really with this circumstance. We shared with Director Comey our relationship with our FBI office here is one of the best in the country. They work hand in hand with us, and we believe that their efforts are proving time and time again the criticality of a partnership of law enforcement agencies to impact the violence in our street. Lastly, on Friday, myself as well as Assistant Chief B. Grimala sat on a panel that Mayor Garcetti and the First Lady called at the Getty's House for Women Equality Day. Ourselves as well as the fire department were showcased to talk about and explain where as a department we are with women's equity, with increasing the number of women that are represent our ranks, not only in our sworn positions but our civilian. And we were very proud to be a member of that panel. We were very proud to talk about the progress that has been made over the decades and where we sit today with nearly 19% of our sworn police officer force made up of women and our civilian force in excess of 60% being represented by women. With that said, we have much more work to do. Joining me on the panel, but also in the audience, were Assistant Chief George Villegas, Ms. Gruby, the highest-ranking civilian police administrator, female, on the organization, as well as a newly appointed captain of our recruitment division, Alan Hamilton. I think as a team, they represent the best and the brightest in policing. And again, our presence there was to encourage the young women that were in the audience. Many from our magnet schools and high schools and young college age to pursue their dreams, protect their character, and that we need them on this department, and we need them in policing, and we're doing everything we can to ensure that the barriers and so forth are eliminated and that they have a welcome and productive environment. Moving on over to crime statistics. Last year marked the highest number of violent crimes in the city of Los Angeles for the entire year. We recognize, I'm talking to everyone, so we recognize
You're
that
disrupting. If you disrupt again, I'm going to ask you to leave, so please stop disrupting the meeting.
we recognize, as been discussed with this panel.
Okay,
in the
Ms.
past-
Abdullah, you can leave the room, please.
Oh, that was the fastest record ever.
Thank you.
I'll be right outside. Hey, you got a lot of explaining to do. Yeah. Fire chief. Hey, walk out with me. I'm leaving.
Okay, let's have order, please. We don't have order. We have order, please. If we don't get order, I will take a 5-minute recess. We will then try to reconvene, and if we then have continued disruptions, we'll have the public removed. So please stop disrupting.
We're not told if we leave, we can't come back. If we walk out this door, we can't come back.
You can come back. You can come back.
I was just told that, and he also put his hand on me and said that I couldn't leave.
It's a violation of the Brown
Put that
Act.
out there.
You are entitled to leave and come back.
Yeah, the guy just walked.
Okay, can I have order, please? If you'd like to leave, then leave. If you don't want to leave, then please have a seat. Yes, you may.
So, Commissioner, and continuing my report, last year, the same period of time we recognized was our highest period of violent crime. So a number of strategies that previously discussed we brought on, and I'm happy to say that we've seen definite and positive results. Today, at the end of Saturday, we had 182 homicides versus last year 186. And that is, again, a demonstration that while still way too much violence in the street, our strategies working with a focused effort in each of our 21 areas in concert with the added resources of Metropolitan Division, our partnerships with our communities are making results. It was the 7th week in a row in which we saw a reduction in the percentage of increase of violent crime. So as of the end of Saturday, we're at 13.1% of a violent crime increase. 7 weeks ago, that number was 16.3%. We also saw improvements in our property crime, where particularly in the burglary area. So we ended the week at a 5.9% increase in overall Part 1 crime. That is a decline from 6% the week before. And our victims shot. Last week, we had 2 additional victims shot from the year before. This week, because of the success last week, we're at 12 fewer people who have been shot in the city than where we were a year ago. So we are still much work in front of us, but I'm happy to say that our efforts with gang crime, with street violence, particularly street violence, we're seeing good results. And as we move towards this weekend, our commitment is to continue to have our deployments out, to have the added resources in our gang enforcement details and so forth. 2 other issues I'd like to discuss, and that is last Friday night was the last night of our Summer Nights Light program, a very successful program this year. We'll be looking at our crime statistics and understand, quantitatively exactly where we stood versus last year and the year before. But qualitatively, we're very pleased with the engagement with our communities utilizing these open spaces and being a community and enjoying the evenings. Lastly, and just a brief report on officer-involved shootings. As of today, we have a total of 19 officer-involved shootings in which an individual was hit. That is in comparison to last year, that number was 29. Overall officer-involved shootings are 28 year-to-date, and that is in comparison to 38 last year-to-date, which is a 26% reduction. So while we're on average for a 4-year average, our 4-year average is just over 28 officer-involved shootings with a hit and no hit. We're very pleased by looking at the sharp reduction from the number of officer-involved shootings from this period last year. However, I must stress that just last night, our Metropolitan Resources alone, Metropolitan Crime Suppression Details, recovered 3 handguns off of suspects in the various crime suppression efforts that they had both within CSOC and the Hollenbeck area. And so those stats demonstrate that the number of handguns and the number of firearms that are in possession by people on the street today continues to be a challenge to all of our safety. Lastly, I'll move to our 2 other issues: our traffic statistics, hit and runs, and motor vehicle versus PEDs. Those areas involving serious injuries and death continue to see increases this year versus last. Just over 13% in hit and runs, as far as an increase for serious and fatal collisions, and for motor vehicles versus PED, nearly 17% increase. 285 serious injuries or deaths as a result of a motor vehicle versus pedestrian versus 244 this same period last year. So those trends continue. Our efforts and enforcement continues. One of the items today is a traffic grant that goes to DUI enforcement, which we believe is a major factor in our hit and runs as well as our motor vehicle PEDs.
The hotspots for the increase?
It's spread across the city. I can get you more detailed information as far as each of the individual areas, but this is not an area that has one particular area over another. We are on Wednesday having our traffic ComStat. Our traffic coordinator, Department Traffic Coordinator, is Deputy Chief Mike Downing. He'll be chairing that. The Office of Operations will be there with Commander Sherman, and we'll be inspecting each of the 4 traffic commands to better dig into these stats and understand what is behind this increase. Lastly, the one bright spot in our traffic continues to be our bicyclist-involved collisions. For fatal injuries and serious injuries, we're down 13%. We've had 10 individuals that have lost their life in a bicyclist-involved collision versus 11 last year. 62 suffered a serious injury versus 72 same time last year. So our enforcement strategies there will continue in an effort to improve the traffic safety and pedestrian safety and bicyclist safety across the city. As to our sworn and civilian personnel strength, we stand today at 9,764 sworn personnel. That is about 123, got to do quick math here, about 140 people short of our goal. We do have, starting on this next Monday, 43 new recruits.
We have a class graduating Friday, right?
We have a class graduating Friday as well. So our efforts continue to be to improve our recruitment processes and improve the size of our classes as our effort is to hire 600 recruits this year. So LAPD is hiring, and we're very anxious to have qualified candidates submit their applications and work through the process so they can have an academy date quickly. As to our civilian personnel, we're at 2,747 personnel, and our police reserves number 410, and 7,861 cadets. And I'll close that of those 7,861 cadets, the bright spot, and as we talked about women in policing, is more than 60% of those are women.
Wow.
And so we see that as a feeder pool, as a group of the next generation of policing as these young cadets learn the discipline, the character, and the values of policing and law enforcement in America.
That's great.
Thank you. That concludes my report.
Thank you.
We have 13 speaker
I
cards at
have
this
one
time.
question, that Chief. Chief, the incident at LAX and the incident at JFK just a few weeks before, or a few days before, I'm not sure, the reactions where people wind up on the tarmac and things really get out of control. What's the national and what's the local discussion on that? It seems like there's a lot of best practices and some potential changes that need to happen.
Well, the department, obviously, we have personnel that are staged there. I was brought into the information stream just after 9 o'clock Sunday night, and we were leaning forward with our command officer that responded to the scene, Captain Maltez. There was a unified command that was put in place. We are currently gathering the chronology of events the actions of the Los Angeles World Airport, a partner with us there, their police department, as well as TSA and the FAA. We're trying to understand what kicked this off. It does appear at this point that a certain amount of crowd hysteria took over. This is a phenomenon that exists where an individual who, at this point, it appears, was a costume character that typically frequents the Hollywood Boulevard area for taking pictures with tourists and so forth, went to the terminal in the United Airlines terminal baggage area and left on his costume, which consisted of a full mask and body costume, as well as a sword of sorts. His actions in doing so created a obviously serious concerns in regards to the public that was around him. And then when the Los Angeles World Airport Police encountered him, people began fleeing or running, and their remarks then built, and aided by social media, into a certain hysteria. Our efforts today is to understand what did the TSA agents, our own personnel, LAWA police, as well as the FAA then do in reaction to that, and how much information in the chaos was known. However, as Mayor Garcetti indicated, at this point, at this early juncture, what happened at airport was an activation of clearing those immediate areas, of people using emergency exits for what constituted an emergency based on what was known at the time, and recognizing that active shooter situations generally begin and end within 3 to 4 minutes, that the immediacy of that action was, I'll say early on, a rational response by a crowd that was not well informed based on an inability to be well informed because of the chaos of confusion. Having said that, then our mechanism today is looking at, okay, once we got to that point, how do we now unwind this? And in a ground stop, isolation of the central terminal area efforts, when those things happen at an airport, it's much like starting a train or stopping it. You can stop it on an emergency basis, but getting it started again is a very controlled and methodical process, because a lot of things have to be kept in balance. So flights being diverted, runways being isolated, those are all part of a plan. I've heard criticism last night that there wasn't a plan. In the chaos, it can oftentimes look that way, but I will also look to the results. And in this results, people evacuated those areas, many on their own. What we'll look to is, how do we learn and improve from this? Are there things that we can learn and improve? This time versus the active shooter that was there, I was on that scene, I believe it was 2.5 years ago, at 8:30 in the morning. I will just say that there wasn't broad messaging. Phones did not work. There was the inability to communicate. And that incident, while we were able to bring it under control within 2 hours, it took us 4 hours after that to get that airport back open. Our experience in looking at Sunday was much different. It was a shorter time frame. So to that end, I think that one of the challenges here, just to finish this point, is that the expectations of the public today are fair, but they need to be balanced by perspective of the complexity of these systems. Is that while we all have a need and desire to turn things back on, we want to do so in a managed way that's thoughtful and that we don't make matters worse.
Are counterterrorism people involved in the analysis of this?
Oh, absolutely. Captain Steve Sambar, Deputy Chief Downing, Assistant Chief Gramala. We had a brief yesterday at the Chief of Police Direct Report meeting. There's a new brief coming out this morning as to what we've learned additionally, and we'll work with all of our city families, the entire fire, police, LAWA police, and our federal and other partners that are engaged in this effort of safety there and the operation of LAWA, to ensure that, again, lessons that can be learned. But I want to take a moment and thank the men and women that are involved in each of those agencies, because we today, two days later, get to look back and say, well, this is what this was. But at the moment when it happens, they don't know that for certain. And their first thing has to be the preservation of life, their first goal. And that can look excessive in the sense of shutting down airport operations and inconveniencing tens of thousands of people. But that has to be balanced against the loss of life and the potential for that. And so at the end of the day, we would ask people that go to those airports, and there's millions of people that go through there each year, is to recognize that
the actions of an individual, however uninformed or reckless or otherwise, can have a very cascading effect, and people need to ensure that their actions there are disciplined and mature, and they think about how their actions are going to be interpreted.
Thank you. Any other questions for the chief? Okay, you can call the speakers. Thank you.
Okay, I'll call the first four speakers: Michael Novick, Jerry Dietrich, Lyndon Shelby, and Lisa Simpson.
Good morning again. They say that figures don't lie, but liars can figure. The chief said that there's been a reduction in the rate of increase of violent crime from 16% to 13%. That's not a reduction. You need to ask yourself why there's been a supposed increase in so-called gang violence, and it's because the LAPD has disrupted consistently people trying to create gang truces and gang peace efforts, and disrupted people trying to organize the community to take care of itself and be responsible. And so I think that's the impact of the work that you people are doing, is that there's been an increase in violence. I hate to say I told you so, but we were here last week and said that the billboards we're putting up and the whole LAPD spying counterterrorism initiative you're doing is creating paranoia. And so now you have the results of that. You had some costume clown disrupt the entire LA airport for hours, and people fleeing in panic onto the tarmac. So that's your responsibility again. It's in your hands. I'm not surprised that Charlie Beck is not here, because if I were Charlie Beck, I'd be ashamed to show my face, and I'm not surprised that some of the other seats are empty too. So, it's time to ask yourself, what are you doing to deal with these problems in a serious way? You have the police department that has, I've been watching this since '82 when I moved to L.A. For many, many years, LAPD has shot about 50 people a year, person a week. And so to say that you went down from 38 last year to 28 this year, which is the 4-year average, figures can lie and liars can figure. So what's different? LAPD is killing more people. They might be shooting about the same number, but they're killing a lot more. And that's on you. That's on you for arming them. That's on you for having a militarized strategy for policing. That's on you for not holding Charlie Beck accountable and firing his ass.
Jerry Dietrich.
Hi, my name is Jerry Dietrich, and I have created a whole speech to talk about how much I want Beck fired, but I would like to speak to him. And he's not here, so I will not speak today. All I want to say to you is he needs to be fired, and I will be back.
Lyndon Shelby.
Morning.
Morning. I could sit up here, I could yell at y'all, I can call y'all all type of ignorant ass names, but for what? Y'all make yourself look stupid. First of all, y'all killed my son. I don't appreciate it. Second of all, y'all ain't gave me no answers. You tried to do your due. I'm going to give you a death certificate that you knew was already in the mail. But I give you E for effort. You tried. It's kind of strange to me how y'all sit up here and y'all address yourself. Y'all don't even look at the people. You don't even look at the people. You want to know why? Because you're ashamed yourself. You know what's going on. When you go to sleep at night, your kids at home, or your grandkids, they're at home, sleep peacefully, right? Guess what? When I wake up in the morning, my son ain't home. I got to look at his clothes while I'm hanging up my baby son's shit. Do you know how that feels? Nah, you don't. You want to know why? Because you ain't never lost nothing that hurt. But I'm going to tell you something. And don't take it lightly. Whenever you see white people joining with black people, you got a big problem on your hands. And it's bigger than all y'all. It's bigger than all y'all. You say you got handguns on the street, people protecting themselves from y'all. I can get pulled over and lose my life. You think you think I'm not going to carry a handgun? I deserve to die because I live in a low-income housing? I deserve to die because of the color of my skin? I deserve to die because I got tattoos on my face? Tell me that. Huh? Can you give me a reason why Black men deserve to die. I looked on the list on the internet. All police killings in California have been minorities. Not one white male was killed by police. All blacks and browns. Just know that.
Lisa Simpson.
Good morning.
Nothing good about the morning, sir. You sit here and I like you. You a good puppet. They give you all this information for you to bring out here these lies and tell to the people. Chief Beck won't even show his face. But he sent you up here so you could take all the hits. Guess why? He a punk. Y'all need to buy him a bra and panty set because he's a punk. For real. Miss McClain, I'm going to give you an E for effort. You feel me? You tried, but you didn't try hard enough, sister. You're going to give me a death certificate that you already knew that was going to be mailed to me. You and your little inspector general, you know. Yeah, don't shy from it. It's the truth. And the saddest part about it, y'all put on the bottom of my son's death certificate, he was killed by another person. He was killed by the LAPD. That ain't another person. That's you. You run it, remember? That's what you up here saying. You saying your statistics. How do you live with yourself every day and you got the nerves to talk about the statistics of how many police been in shootings? What is the statistics about your police officers killing kids? That's cool with you, right? Y'all got all these military polices on y'all forces. They kill kids on a daily. When they go to all these third world countries, they done killed a lot of 3-year-olds, 2-year-olds. So my 18-year-old son didn't even matter, you feel me? This ain't no damn third world country. This is supposed to be America. That's what y'all call it. Y'all all sit there and y'all act like y'all don't know what's going on. Yeah, I'm on YouTube, Mr. Johnson. Yeah. Because you know the business too. Y'all play too many games. Life is not a game. I will never see my son again. And y'all still failed to tell me anything. Y'all got a police report number, but no report. What kind of fuckery is that? And y'all want me to be happy every time I come here. Every time I come here, y'all want me to be happy with y'all. Y'all not giving me no type of results. It's been over a month, and all you can do is give me a death certificate that said my son was killed by another person. Well, I couldn't say he was killed by the LAPD because that's who killed him. So since y'all saying that he was killed by another person, I need this officer indicted and tried like another person. Can y'all make that happen? Can y'all make that happen? That's what I want. I don't want to hear that he's been threatened because I haven't threatened anybody. But if I did want to threaten him, I got every right. He took my child away from me. And all y'all act like y'all don't understand what that means because guess why? Y'all never lost a child. And the part that killed me about y'all the most, this is the part that really puzzles me and have my mind confused about y'all. And all y'all people that's down here, do you know every time somebody come up to me, you know what the first thing they say to me? How long you been living in the Nickerson Gardens? I've never lived in the Nickerson Gardens ever in my life. But if I did, that give y'all the right to kill my son because I live in the Nickerson Gardens? It don't matter where you live at. Y'all don't know nothing about me. Y'all ain't never met me before. I ain't never been in trouble with y'all. But on the same token, I ain't scared of none of y'all. That's why I get up here and say what I say, because I'm not scared of y'all. You feel me? Y'all humans just like me. You just got a badge on. Means nothing to me. You feel me? It means nothing to me. Because you sit up here and you lie all the time, Mr. Moore. You tell lies, and then it's the cold part. If you're going to lie, stand up to your lies. Be a man about your lies. Don't sit up here and tell lies and try to stand behind them. You feel me? It's a lot of things that y'all could change, but y'all refuse to change them. Guess why? Because y'all right and everybody else is wrong. It's no two sides to y'all story. It's only one side. It's y'all side and y'all side only. It's not fair. This man right here that's sitting next to you, Richard, he came and talked to me. You feel me? He wasn't scared of me. You 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 not scared of me, but you really don't trust me too much because you don't know if I'm a time bomb. I ain't no time bomb. I'm just a short fuse that's already been lit. You feel me? I tried to be quiet. I tried to stay under the radar. But y'all department killed my son. So I'm going to keep on talking. I'm never going to shut up.
Thank
you. Feel me?
Thank you for coming down.
Yeah, for sure. I'm going to keep coming down because you being the president, you should be able to make something happen. But you're not trying because guess what? I seen you sitting up there laughing with him early. How you come to work happy when they're killing kids on a daily? How are you happy, sir? I really want to know, how are you really coming to work happy and you can laugh with him and they killing our kids?
We need to go on to the next speaker.
Yeah, that's what you want to keep. You see, that's the shit I'm talking about. You want to brush this shit under the rug.
We need to go on to the next speaker.
You a cold brother, you know that?
I'm going to call the next four speakers. The next four speakers, Dylan Kidd, Prentice Jenkins, Akili, and Paula Miner.
You're not allowed to yield your time to another speaker. It is in the rule books.
Mr. Kidd, are you ready to begin, sir?
Sure.
Can we have order, please? Your time is running, sir.
Okay. I'm not an expert on policy like some of the people in the room. I can't speak to community policing. But as somebody who's been here as an observer for a few of these meetings, I believe that nothing is going to improve the situation until you make an effort to change the culture of the department. And I think that's something that could make an immediate impact, apart from the firing of Chief Beck, of course, is to change the language that you use. I was here a month ago, and there was a report on a shooting in Nickerson Gardens, and the report finished with the phrase, "the suspect was shot." And I had to go home and go on the internet to find out that, in fact, the suspect was killed and that he was an 18-year-old young man named Richard Risher. And as human beings, one human being to another, I'd like to ask you to consider the difference between the phrase, "the suspect was shot," and "the young man was killed." And this is not just as a show of respect to Mrs. Simpson and the other family members of victims of police violence. I was here 2 weeks ago, and Mrs. Simpson stepped from behind the podium, and like 5 police officers rushed forward. And this is another issue, like why there are so many fucking guns in this room. It's silly. So it's not just about the respect for the families, it's about how it would make you feel, okay? Because you have very tough jobs. I think we all get it. It's a tough job you have. But it means it's your responsibility. Okay. I think it's your responsibility to try to do everything you can to keep yourselves from dehumanizing the victims, turning them into statistics, okay? And listen, the last thing I want to talk about is the first time I was here, I looked at the itinerary, I got to the last page, and I saw ICD number 070-15, Involved Party v. Jackson. And I looked up, and I see that ICD is jargon for in-custody death. And then I look back down, and I see Involved Party v. Jackson. Like, no full name, just v. Jackson. And I know that one definition of custody is imprisonment, but another definition is protective care. And I just want to say the last thing is that to internally designate someone who dies in your care as an involved party is an obscenity. It's a theme.
Prentice Jenkins.
Prentice Jenkins, City Life newsletter publisher, activist since 1991.
Good morning again.
Good morning, President Johnson, Vice President Soboroff, board. You state that gentleman in the mask was responsible for that, but I remember them saying someone called in and said they heard shots. And if you're in an airport, I can do this upstairs and it'll sound like shots. And then somebody will call and say it's shots because that's how jumpy we are now. I mean, he's blown up airports in Europe. We had a shooting at this airport, so everybody gets jumpy now when something like that happens. And, of course, that gentleman that was in the Zorro mask, you guys approached him after all this happened, and then you let him go. So he wasn't responsible for it. He's just some dude standing in a uniform, right? What was really responsible for it is how frightened we are. And the reason we're frightened is because there are a lot of guns out there, and a lot of people are killing each other. Cops are killing people. People are killing people. People are killing cops. One of the most important things that we have to do is talk about this community policing. Put the community together with the cops, and it's important to start talking. You know, Jimmy Carter started a program back in 1973 when I was 14. I'm 57 now. And me and my friends were some wild kids. We did a whole lot of wild stuff in the summer. He did the summer program. And once we got that job, we were so tired, dog tired, that we couldn't get into the mischief that we were getting into because we had that job. And that's what we started doing with young individuals and young gang members, putting them to work in construction.
Thank you for your comment.
Keeley?
Excuse me. I just have a quick question. And this is to Chief Moore. It's about an assertion that was just made, because I do recall reading the paper and there being some confusion about the role of the individual that you made reference to, the one that was in costume, and the actual shutdown of the airport. And by the way, I was on a flight that was diverted that day. But I had this conversation last week with Chief Beck about the real need to be very clear and careful about what we say so that we're not creating impressions that may or may not be actually factual. So you did say, as a part of your report, as I heard it, there seemed to be a connection that you were asserting between the gentleman who was in costume and the actual events relative to the shutdown of the airport. Is that something that you know, or something? I just want to be clear about what that was, because I did see the news report about there being some call or some report of a gunshot that wasn't connected to that individual at all. So
So, Commissioner, actually, and we want to ensure that each of our remarks are as concise as possible. However, at the same time, in response to a question by the Commission as to what occurred there, I frame my remarks in the sense that we're learning today, as we learned yesterday and we learned from the initial moments, the cascading of events that occurred. Make no mistake about it, the information the Los Angeles Police Department has right now, what I have, is that gentleman in the Toro, or the mask and full body outfit, was definitely engaged in a portion of events that cascaded into this. Was there also a report of a shot being fired in that general area, or a sound of a noise creating a perception that there was a shooting that was going on? Yes. The point of this is that my description was in trying to frame what began this process was, in part, one individual's decision.
No,
but it's not meant to blame him. It's meant to give a framing of what the context of this is. Okay, but I just want to be clear. What you are confirming is there were two distinct activities, right? There was the gentleman in the Zorro suit, and then there was some noise that was interpreted as a shooting. But these are two distinct incidents as we know this moment. We don't know that those two things are linked. No, quite the contrary. We believe that they happened.
Can we please stop disrupting?
Please? One occurred first, and then in close proximity of time. To call them distinct and separate and apart is to suggest that one happened in Terminal 1 and one happened in Terminal 8. I'm not making that representation at all. What I'm making representation is what happened in Terminal 7 occurred.
Can we please have order in the room?
Individual. We can't control. We're still determining the source of that noise. What that was appeared not to be a gunshot at this point today. But I do mean to draw in the responsibility of part of this individual's actions of going there in a full body mask, full headgear, and a sword, and walking about a baggage area in 2016, given the events here in Los Angeles, in Paris, in all parts of this country.
No,
I
get that part. I'm just trying. Again, I get that part. So please, will you stop? Please, I just want to make sure that I understand what you're saying. So you're drawing this connection because they occurred in close proximity.
Yes.
To one another, but not necessarily because the Zorro person made the noise.
No, I'm sorry. and I'll go back and listen to my remarks, I mean for this to be transparent and to know what we know today. And part of the challenges in doing that, as we provide information, is that it's recognized as preliminary, and that it's recognized that it changes and evolves. That's not meant to inappropriately implicate or be critical of a person who's otherwise has no involvement in this. His presence there had a definite involvement in this event as we understand it today.
Thank you.
Can we call the next speaker, please?
Keeley, followed by Paula Miner.
If you have a comment, you can fill out a speaker card and hand it to the officer over there. Still plenty of time to fill out a speaker card for general comment at the end.
Commissioners, my name's Keeley, and I'm with Black Lives Matters LA, and I'm here to talk about the killing of black people. In your report, you talked about 28 people being shot. I would bet dollars to donuts that over half of those people that were shot were black. You didn't say that in the report because that's not how you operate here. I would much rather you stop using them dog whistles and coded language and just come out and say, we shot X number of black people this week to make the city safer for white people. I would appreciate that. There are 4 conditions that we live with in this country. One of them is white supremacy. The second one is institutional racism. The third one is individual bigotry. And the last one is mass denial, because you and others like to think that there is no race problem. There is a race problem when we get killed. There is a race problem when there's an Ezell Ford, when sisters like this have to come up and make demands of you. When you sit there and do nothing, we are tired of that. That is why you see us here. That is why we are disruptive. And that is why we will continue to come. Until you stop killing us, we'll stop disrupting. It's as simple as that. You have made a policy of killing us. And the best that we can hope for is that it's in policy. If it weren't for Black Lives Matter, you wouldn't even be talking about the killing of black people. If it weren't for Black Lives Matter, this would be something so common that it wouldn't even come up. If it weren't for Black Lives Matter, we wouldn't assume that another black person's been killed by LAPD. That's just how it is in LA. We are no longer willing to accept that. We are no longer willing to accept no accountability, no justice for these families. We are no longer willing to accept that. And if we have to come here every week and disrupt, we will do it. Because we have nothing to lose but our chains. Nothing to lose but our chains. And if we can stop one killing, we've advanced the justice for our families. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Paula Miner, followed by Melina Abdullah.
Paula Miner with Black Lives Matter. One of the first things I want to say to Assistant Chief Moore is that you epitomize, as Commissioner McClain-Hill tried to point out, something that we've been experiencing over and over again. There's a word that I just heard recently. I heard it from the mother of Ezell Ford. Ezell, can't even think Ford. She said that what we get over and over again is something called cop-paganda. That was her phrase modeled after propaganda. And Chief Moore, you are the expert at cop-paganda. I mean, the police officers lie to us with lots of flowery words, lots of phrases that we cannot understand, references to certain laws, references to certain ordinance, and then say, just go away, believe what I say. But over and over again, we find that these lies are couched in all kinds of words, statistics, things that just really belie the truth. And I just want to say I appreciate Commissioner McClain-Hill, and I ask that our audience give her a hand for trying to point that out. The other thing I want to say in response to Chief Moore's report is that I love how the LAPD goes across the country pretending to be a model police force in New York, D.C., wherever. But When you go there, do you ever talk about the number of officer-involved shootings, the number of young people that you shoot? Have you ever talked about the reduction in your rate of increase, which when you add it together means absolutely nothing? We know that. We know that. And maybe one of the things by having a new commissioner here, maybe you will eliminate some of that talk, at least at these meetings.
Thank you for your comments.
Melina Abdullah, followed by Ted Hayes, Ebony Faye, Hamid Khan, and Michael Novick.
So, today is day 50. Day 50 of Decolonize LA City Hall, our 24/7 encampment in front of City Hall. Now, I know you were all appointed by the mayor. It's important, though, that you take your position seriously. You're not bound to be his political team, to hold up his agenda. We know his agenda is to get reelected and to run for higher office. He wants to be governor or U.S. senator. Nobody is not aware of that. We're all aware of that. But what we've seen here and what we continue to see here is the families of people whose lives have been stolen by LAPD. And instead of connecting with the humanity of that, connecting with what it must mean to be a mother and a father whose child will never come home, we're sitting up playing political games, especially you, Matt Johnson. And we have to stop doing that. You know, we come here all the time and we try to get to your spirits, but you two have shown that you don't really have one. I'm saying awaken that. Awaken that. At 11:30 today, we're going to be joined by 500 clergy who've marched for 10 days from San Diego to be with us and to offer a solidarity prayer. Don't forget the power of spirit. Don't forget that you have a requirement, a command, a duty to uphold truth. And if it's not visited on you, that you're not doing it in this form, it's going to be visited in another form. And that is a promise. That is a promise. I want to say to my comrades, we're going to stay standing tall. We're going to win this. We're going to win this in the names of your children and in the names of our ancestors. We're going to win this because we have nothing to lose but our chains.
Ted Hayes.
Significant incidents. When two or more people assemble to do a lawful act in a violent manner, the assembly is not unlawful unless violence actually occurs or there's a clear and present danger violence will occur immediately. An unlawful assembly was called last week in the lobby. That infers that violence took place in the lobby. Well, there was no violence. The violence on May Day in MacArthur Park when Bretton was chief of police, it occurred on Alvarado Street, but not in the park. But we all know the results of May Day in MacArthur Park, and Bretton lost his job. This is the second time they call an unlawful assembly in the lobby. The courts have always ruled many times that you cannot disturb the peace of a police officer. So what this means, if they suggest violence will occur immediately, is that the officers were jumpy, perhaps as jumpy as the people at the airport. And they may have had an occasion to believe it's a furtive move taking place. That word, furtive move, means, no, I didn't see a gun. No, he was unarmed, but I thought he might hurt me. Paranoia? Have no idea. But when you do this, and we have a right to be here at a public meeting, that's a violation of constitutional rights. And if you use this law on lawful assembly to put us out of the building so we cannot come back in, that tells us what the intent is. Now, officers with bars and stars did this. They're the only ones who can call on lawful assembly, not a sergeant, but an officer with stars and bars. So they knew what they were doing, and they calculated this unlawful assembly. Constitutional violation of our rights to peacefully assemble.
Ebony Faye. followed by Hamid Khan, and I'm sorry, the last one is Maihal Ansik.
I'm going to go as quickly as I can. When you discuss things about crime statistics and all of these things, the question that did come to me is, are you including the people who have been extrajudicially judiciously murdered by the police? Are those numbers in there? Because that is a crime. It's a crime. And the other thing is, I'm not really... At the bottom line, the end of the day, I'm here as a citizen. I've actually lived in other countries. I've actually seen law enforcement in a lot of different places as a civilian, not as a member of any kind of military operation or anything like that. So when you say that these things and you talk like these things are in policy and like there is no choice but to do these things, I call out and out BS, because you guys have your sources and your places that you go. I've been other places too, and I know that it doesn't have to be this way. So when I was 7 years old, y'all know I grew up on 3838 Gibraltar Avenue in the jungle. Hey, 90008, apartment number 22. There was an instant where some young men had kind of like it made me really feel uncomfortable. They wanted me to kind of like go someplace in an alley with them. My dad is an old black man. He grew up in Texas. His people are from Texas, actually from Waller County, where Sandra Bland met her demise in custody. And when I got home and I was 7, he was real upset about it. So my dad took his shotgun and he shot off 2 rounds into the air, and he yelled very loudly his name, and he said, "Ebony Faye is my daughter, and if you mess with her, you'll have a problem." And then my dad, and I was 7, my dad sat on the porch, the walkway, coming up into the Stardust Apartments where we lived at that time. And my mom was at work, and my dad was home. And honestly, he probably had a Schlitz malt liquor or 2, right? But my dad, he was ticked off because people had messed with him, and my time's going to run out, but I'd like to be able to finish. So I'm 7 years old, uninitiated to any of these things about white supremacy or all of these power dynamics. Somehow, innately, I knew that my dad was going to die before me that day, right? And people were ushering me away, and I couldn't remember my mother's number to call her and tell her that my dad was like in a state, and he was just sitting there calmly. But I knew that they were calling police. They called people with guns. They called people, and I saw these 2 guys come, and they were white men, and they had the belts on, just like these guys have here, just like Lieutenant Waters has, just like Lieutenant Mathis has, right? And they were coming up to my dad, and people were ushering me away, the mothers of the community who were home. My classmates were trying, or my neighbor, the kids, my playmates were trying to like make sure that I wasn't around, but I needed to see, because I felt like my dad was going to go, right? And you know what those officers did? They talked to him, and they took his gun, and they said, "We understand, sir." He was a concerned dad, and he was worried about me. He was black. He was agitated. He was drunk, not really drunk, but he was, in a state, child. It was after work, and everything, and he was livid because I couldn't even walk. The demographics in our neighborhood were changing. I couldn't actually walk 2 blocks from the bus stop home without being bothered. And all they did was take my dad's gun and say, "We're going to give you a cooling off period, sir." So when you sit here and you tell me that people can't stand in their kitchens with a knife and not get gunned down in front of their children, I respectfully or disrespectfully call BS on that. When you're telling me that there's absolutely no other way, Riddell Jones had to die. She's about that short, and we're all a bunch of men with guns, and there was no way around it but to kill her. No, thank you, Matt Johnson. There's no way around it but to kill her. You are saying she had to die. You're saying she had to die. And what I am saying is that's not the case.
Thank you, ma'am.
Lieutenant Mathis is an escalator. But a gun outside is an escalator. I saw them last week put their hands on people when it was not necessary. What I am saying is if those people had been outside talking to my dad, my father would have been dead. And all of your order and your rules and your Brown Act and all of this other BS wouldn't matter because my father wouldn't be here. Her son is not here. What I am saying is this is real. This is not calm voice. This is not rules and regulations and statistics. This is not let's all even hate each other. It's that real things are happening, and if it comes to me in the daytime, it's going to reach you by the nighttime, and you don't seem to see that.
Hamid Khan.
So I hope, Ms. Hill, that you're realizing that you are presiding over a system that stalks and preys and kills. You lost a son. And speaking as a parent to you, did you know they have a program in Los Angeles which Newton Division launched? It's called LASER, Los Angeles Strategic Extraction and Removal Program. Think about it. Los Angeles Strategic Extraction and Removal Program. They issue what is known as a chronic offender bulletin, which has the names of young people. They prey on them, they stalk them, they track them. They use cell phone catchers, they use license plate readers, they use other forms of surveillance equipment. This man, Michael Moore, leads that department. He was the head of the Major Crimes Division. We already exposed Michael Downing the other day over here as well. That LASER program, please find out if your son was in the chronic offender bulletin. Because this is the stalking and preying on our youth they do. Recently, a state audit came out which had 46 children under the age of 1 year, 9 months and 10 months old in gang databases. So when you have a system that preys us before we even learn to walk or talk, when you have a system that puts us and identifies us as a threat to the system, what is going to happen? Children are going to die. Young people are going to die. As far as community policing, this bullshit, what they will not tell you is that in the 1980s, LAPD taught El Salvadorian paramilitary squads how to go and kill people in El Salvador. What they would not tell you is that LAPD had Marine Corps assigned in the 2000s and took them for rides in South Central so they can learn urban counterinsurgency tactics that they can go
Thank you for your time,
in
Mr.
Iraq
Khan.
as well in Al-Anbar province.
Thank you for
Matt
your time.
Johnson, this is for you as well. You are presiding. Did you know about the LASER program?
Can you please have a seat?
Do you
please?
know
Your
about
time is
predictive
up.
policing, what it does?
Your time is up,
Previous
sir.
crime history goes in. When the previous crime history is based on racist policing, what do you expect?
Mr. Khan, if you don't have
Garbage in,
if you don't have a
garbage out.
seat, I'm going to ask you to leave.
What we are saying is, please rise up to the occasion.
Please have a
Because
seat.
you're presiding over a stalker and a prayer, and as a woman.
Mr. Khan, if
As
you
a
don't have a
woman, you know
seat
what
right now, I'm
happens.
going to ask you to leave.
Thank you. Come on, I'm leaving.
Here we have the next speaker. The next speaker is Mihal Onzik. Mihal Onzik or Mihal? Not present, and that's the last speaker.
Okay, let's.
Okay, we're now on item number 3, regular agenda items. We have comment cards for 3A.
Do we have any comment cards for 3B or C?
No, sir.
Would any of my fellow commissioners like to report on items 3B or 3C?
I'll move 3B and 3C.
Do I have a second? Second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Call this. Would any of my fellow commissioners like a report on item 3A?
No.
Okay, let's just call the cards then on
The
3A.
cards. We have Lyndon Shelby, Lisa Simpson, Michael Novick, Ebony Fay, and Ted Hayes. And this is relative to the grant application and award for the 2016-2017 Internet Crimes Against Children program.
Once again, I just want to look at y'all stupid ass face. That's it. Because all y'all look stupid as a motherfucker. You look stupid like you down there playing on the tablet or something. You definitely look dumb. You look dumb as a motherfucker. Who taught you how to lie? Because that lying shit ain't working for you. You? I feel sorry for you. They did you just like they did Obama. Put you right in there after somebody done fucked everything up. Blame it on you. You're going to be the next one to get blamed. Steve, you just look like you just waiting to croak. Straight up. And you sad. I'm ashamed to even say you got black blood in you. You just fucking sad. You sit up there and you disrespect the people. You don't even give a fuck. Everything motherfucker been talking about, you just. Only thing you got to say is your time is up. That's all you heard. That's all you got to say is somebody's time is up. That's a damn shame. All y'all. Look at him. Mr. Bustamante, you ain't got shit else better to do, huh? What you down there doing? Jacking off of kitty porn? Sad motherfucker. I just want to look at y'all. Y'all all sad. Y'all better wake up fast. Fast. Just tell your boys don't run up on me. Don't run up on this one. Y'all sad, homie. Look at you. The laser shit, huh? You like to play laser tag, huh? You like to stalk kids? Laser tag. I like to play laser tag too. You want to play with me?
Thank you. A reminder, this item is about the Internet Crimes Against Children's program.
Shit, internet crime? What the fuck? Internet crime? Ain't nobody committing crime. Y'all committing crimes on the street. I bet you got a pistol in your motherfucking leg holster.
Lisa Simpson.
You funny. You real funny. You know that? You want to tell somebody this is about the internet crimes, right? What about the crimes on the streets that your fellow officers create? What about that? You want to talk about internet crimes? For real? That's bullshit. You put stuff on the agenda just so you can have something to talk about to make you look like you're really doing your job. What are you really doing, though? What are you really doing? What are you doing, Mr. Johnson? What are you fucking really doing here? What are you doing? Nothing. You're not doing anything. You're just sitting there. You're sitting there. You're just sitting there every week. That's all you do is sit there. There's no clarification coming from y'all. Man, I take my hat off to you, Miss McClain. Moore, you so dumb. You didn't even realize that she was setting your dumb ass up for failure. She asking you questions, and you just kept digging a deeper and deeper and deeper hole for your own self. I mean, it's sad. I'm just sitting there like, oh, my God, is this dummy going to ever shut up? But you know what the saying is, right? Once you tell one lie, you got to tell two lies. When you tell two lies, you got to tell three lies. When you tell three lies, you got to tell four lies. When you get to the fifth lie, you done forgot the four lies you already told. And that's when that man upstairs going to call your name, Mr. Moore. Stop lying, homie. That's sad. So you got your little laser shit going, huh? Where your son at? Where your daughter at? Because you should put their name on the list, too. Shit, if you killing kids, don't exclude yours. Kill all the kids. Then I can respect you. Don't make a certain kid that you got to kill. Kill them all. Don't sit there. I know your tie is tight as hell. You probably did shorted on yourself because you didn't think nobody was going to expose you. You exposed yourself. And then more, you sit there and you accept the exposure. You don't say nothing. You just sit there and say, your time is up. Bah, your time is up. Go on and say it. Your time is up. I'll say it for you.
Thank you.
Your time is up.
You call the next speaker, please.
Your time is up.
Thank you. The next speaker, Michael Novick.
We have order, please. Order, please. Order, please.
The next speaker, please.
Thank you. Next speaker,
Mr. Novick,
please.
your time is starting.
Sir, please stop disrupting the meeting. Sir, please stop disrupting. Okay. Thank you.
Michael Novick with Anti-Racist Action and White People for Black Lives. And, you know, I've told you before that I have lost a child. My stepson was killed 9 years ago, August 25th. And it's very painful for me to come to these meetings, and I come because of my solidarity with other people who have lost children and with the black community of this city that is under attack by the police department of this city. and with the Mexicano and indigenous people of the city who are under attack by the police department of the city. And I think it's ridiculous that you talk about internet crimes against children when this department in the last month has killed 3 children, 18 and 14 years old, in South LA and East LA. But talking about internet crimes against children, I think there's also an LAPD officer who just got caught sending quote-unquote harmful messengers to minors. And so if you're talking about internet crimes against children, start with your own department and the crimes they're committing against children on the internet and on the streets. And, this grant comes from the Governor's Office of Emergency Services. If there's any emergency in this city, in this state, it's the emergency of police abuse of the law and of the citizens of the city. Oakland Police, they've gone through 4 chiefs in the last year because of the sexual crimes committed against children by members of the Oakland Police Department. And it's time that you learned a lesson from some of your fellow departments and hold, you chop from the top and a fish rots from the top. And it's time to deal with the top of this department, which is Charlie Beck. And if he is replaced, then the next person does the same thing, he'll be replaced too.
Ebony Faye.
I was actually going to say the same thing. I was going to touch on that. What is also disturbing, and I think, we talk always about this murder, these murders that happen. The thing is, if murder is found to be in policy, what isn't in policy at that point?
Ma'am, this item is
So I'm
specific to
discussing-
internet
so-
crimes against children, so
Okay.
you have to stick on that.
No, I
topic.
understand, Mr. Johnson. I appreciate what you're saying, and I really do. I really do appreciate it. But you know what also is disruptive and off topic? For a young man to be gunned down in the prime of his life. And what's also disruptive and off topic is for Jesse Romero to be 14 years old and not allowed to make a
If
kid's
that's
mistake.
what you'd like to talk about,
And so-
please submit a card for public comment. And
Okay, got you. So, all I'm saying, Mr. Johnson, is that there's this extreme thing that's happening that's being found in policy, and I think it's really I think it's really ironic that you are discussing.
Please have a seat.
I really believe that it's ironic.
Comments on
We
this
have
item?
Ted Hayes.
Discussing
That's all.
internet
Mr.
crimes
Hayes.
against children when you won't discuss the real life crimes against children, and when you won't discuss all of the things in between that lead up to that. That's all I'm talking about. I'm talking about kids, and yeah, I probably am off topic, and I probably should go ahead and make a public comment, but I just can't let the time fly by. I just can't. I just have to be here doing this, Mr. Johnson, because it's extremely inconvenient for all of us to have to be here and for people to be coming down and be camped out for 50 days. You just have to listen to me for a couple of minutes. She has to live without her son for the rest of her life. So does Jesse Romero's mom. So I feel like that actually takes precedence over your desire, and I understand it. Because if we speak over and off topic, things will be bedlam. But you know what also is happening in the communities, and we can't just not speak up about that. So maybe you should clean your own house first, and maybe you should start with this internet crimes against children thing. Maybe you should start inside.
Ma'am, thank you. Your time is
Hope
up.
that the grant application and that the grant award goes to initially
Call the next speaker, please.
The next speaker is Mr. Ted Hayes.
That's really what I hope. And I hope that you will fire
Ma'am, please
Chief
have a
Beck.
seat.
I understand. And I hope that you will recommend the firing of Chief Beck, Mr. Johnson. You can do
Ma'am,
it. I
please have a
believe in
seat, or
you.
I'm going to have to ask you to leave. Okay, can we have order, please, and give Mr. Hayes his time?
The largest incidence of age in California is among black females. There's a rush among black legislators to decriminalize every kind of activity, including child prostitution. Now, understand that Holly Mitchell is correct. The child is the victim. That's quite true. But when the child convinced that there's no consequence to their behavior, that makes them more gullible, more subject to be impressed, and more subject to be drawn into prosecution. So it's unfortunate that decriminalizing everything is not a means of keeping people safe. It is not. I have no idea why Ms. Mitchell and others want to decriminalize prostitution on the part of the child. Of course the child should get therapy, all kinds of assistance to modify the activity behavior they're involved in. But to simply let them know that, hey, there's no consequence. You will not be punished at all. You'll be taken care of. You can understand solicitation with those kinds of things will encourage the child, the female, to get involved. So I think it's important that the police department and criminologists and sociologists try to redirect this notion that we have to decriminalize activity for children in order to keep them safe. It does not keep them safe. We have to dare to discipline, and I think that somehow these young girls who are brought into prostitution can be disciplined, can be encouraged, can be rehabilitated, but simply not told that you cannot commit a crime when you're a child prostitute.
There are no other comment cards on this item, sir.
Do I have a motion to move approval of this item?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Second. All in favor? No. Aye. Any opposed?
Thank you. We're now on item number 4, public comment period. We have 21 comment cards.
Be here all day. Ain't got nothing else to do.
We have 21 comment cards. If there's more than 10, I can limit everyone's speaking time to 1 minute. I am not going to do that, provided. Okay, I can move. I'm going to give everyone their full 2 minutes, but I'm going to stick to 2 minutes.
Okay, I'll call the first 5 comment cards. Catherine Boyd, Michael Novick, Beth Kemp, Blanca Luna Valdez, and Damone Daniel.
Hello, Chief Moore. You met me there a couple of weeks ago. I wonder if you can help me with my problem that I had asked you about.
Actually, we have done as much. We have looked into this, and we have done as much as we can for you, and that has been explained. And unfortunately, you do not believe that. I'm sorry. There's actually nothing more I can do.
You didn't never do anything.
Okay.
Except kill us. That's it.
This is my first time asking you.
It's actually not. Ma'am, it's actually not. You and I met at a Community Police Advisory Board meeting in Mission area about 2 weeks ago,
yes.
And I looked into that matter, and
You didn't look into anything.
Okay, thank you.
What did you do? You didn't even know my name.
What's her name? What's your name?
He didn't do anything.
Why don't you not talk now? Defend yourself. What did you do? What actions were taken?
He laughed.
Laughing.
What did he say?
I said I'm not laughing.
No, I didn't say you was laughing. You laughed. You didn't get my name. You gave me your car.
No, we did.
What'd you do? You didn't do anything. Oh, and also I did go to the Days of Dialogue. Yeah, I went there. I was looking for Chief Green, but he wasn't there. Yeah, he had been helping me, but he wasn't there. But as far as you didn't do anything. You left.
You have a moral character to describe.
I don't understand.
There's a limit here as to what I understand my rules of engagement are. But I can tell you this: I'm more than happy to discuss that. Unfortunately, your criminal matter, the allegations that you made, have been fully investigated by the department. We have nothing else that we can do for you. That has been explained by command officers as well as line detectives, and I'm sorry that you feel otherwise. So I'm sorry.
You didn't look up anything. You left.
I'm sorry I did.
It did not. That's what I'm talking about. You didn't even get my name.
Thank you for your comments, ma'am. Next speaker, please.
Michael Novick.
Chief Moore, the rules of engagement are when military are authorized to open fire on people. In case you don't know, that's what rules of engagement are. I want to comment on because this illustrates it clearly, the crocodile tears that were cried by the chief and Matt Johnson this week about trying to give more information or act more responsively to the families of people who were killed by the police. There were articles in the LAPD, in the LA Times, after the police commission hearing last week when you saw truth-telling as a threat and a disruption and kicked everybody out, in which you said you were creating a new department, a new agency or something to talk to the families of people. But then towards the bottom of the article it said, but we can't tell them anything we haven't already told the public. So I just want to comment on that a little further. What does it mean to you that you are in charge of a department that kills so many people? You have to set up a special agency to talk to the families of the people they kill. Think about that and stop sitting on those. I won't even say it, but what does it take to get it into your? I mean, it's painful to come here week after week. I don't know what it's like for you, but you have to have some understanding of what people are telling you, and to go and respond to that by an attack in the newspapers about the disruptions and a claim that you're dealing with it by creating a special task force or something that will communicate with the families of the people you killed is senseless. It's crazy. It's disgusting. And the last thing I want to say is that Charlie Beck has to go. You can't avoid it any longer. It's the first step you have to take to healing this situation. And when he's gone, then get somebody in there who will change this apart from top to bottom.
Beth Kemp.
So I was once told by Sergeant Park of the Van Nuys Division, it is not the police officer's job to know the law, it is the citizens'. So I've taken upon myself to start learning laws. What's odd to me is 50 days at City Hall, we're being met with the Jones Settlement Law, which is front housed, and 5611, which is property storage. We're not doing either of those things. We are protesting Chief Beck and this murderous police department. So those laws really don't apply to First Amendment protesters, but every day we deal with the police. But you know what? There is a law that I know of that applies to the police. It's in the Civil Code, if any of you have read it. Section 137 of the California State Civil Code that says any officer that harms or injures anyone in their care or custody is due to lose their job and a $4,000 fine. When that was written in the 1800s, that was a whole year's salary. So any officer who has killed or injured anyone, according to the California state law, needs to be removed from office and their money needs to be taken away from them. No more paid time off, no more like specialty, oh, you shot somebody, so let's send you to a desk for a little while. No, fuck this shit. Take these people off the streets. Take them off the streets and let people know who these murderous police are so we can protect ourselves from these cops. Over and over again, people are getting murdered. 3 teenagers in a month since we've been outside. Jesse Romero was 14 years old. Richard Risher was 18 and Kenny Watkins was 18. You do not value life. You do not value the citizens of Los Angeles, and it's absolutely like stunning to see 54% of the budget, 57 in total counting overtime and lawsuits, is spent on policing. If you took half of that money and put it into community programs, housing, something for youth, you would not have these problems. So fire Chief Beck. Listen to your community and fire Chief Beck.
Next speaker, please.
Morning, Council. My name is Damone Daniel. I'm the president and founder of New Creation Outreach. I'm a free speech activist, a master mason of the Most Worshipful Prince Hall Grand Lodge of Free and Accepted Masons. I'm also a recording artist. I'm here to stress my concerns about your unwritten police policy or customs that allow police officers of the LAPD to encourage and make unlawful arrests against myself and against members of my coalition. 3 years ago, I was arrested by LAPD 3 times and for criminal trespassing while engaging in free speech activities, and I was acquitted on all occasions. I also, after that, I've notified the LAPD, the city attorneys, the internal affairs, also sent a request to the chief of police office, a request to train the officers on how to deal with the rights of free speech. However, just November 24th of last year and May 11th of this year, I was beat up by 9 of your officers in front of the shopping center, the Crenshaw Mall on King and Crenshaw for collecting charitable donations for our nonprofit organization, and the Crenshaw Mall wanted to allow only Salvation Army and Girl Scouts, so the LAPD told them to sign a citizen's arrest, and they were going to arrest me for trespassing, and they did that, and 9 officers beat me up and tased me for no reason, and this is going on 3 years that you had notice on how to train your officers on rights of free speech. Your officers don't know anything about free speech. During their testimonies in trial, they came out and said that we have no rights to free speech. If people don't want us on the property, then we're guilty of trespassing, and that's not what this trespass penal code reads. And it has to be an intent to obstruct the business, which my peaceful organization does not do. And I ask that you guys take these requests to train again, and please train your officers.
Okay, behind him. Thank you.
Okay, the next speaker, Blanca Luna Valdez.
Véanlo. Este es mi hijo que mató a la policía de Hollenbeck. Y no he sabido nada. Nunca me han dicho nada. Solo sé que lo mataron por las noticias.
Are you going to translate, sir?
Mi nombre es Blanca Valdés. Quiero saber cuánto tiempo les dan a ustedes para informarle a una madre que le mataron a su hijo.
My name is Blanca Valdez. I want to know how long does it take for you police officers to communicate with the families of someone that one of your police officers killed?
A mi hijo me lo mataron en abril 10. Estamos en agosto 30, 4 meses y 20 días y nadie ha ido a verme a mi casa a decir qué pasó con mi hijo.
One of your police officers killed my son, Arturo Torres. You killed my son on April 10, 2016, and today is August 30th. I still haven't heard of anything, any information regarding the murder of my son. It's been 4 months and 20 days, and I still don't know anything.
Yo quiero redirigirme a ustedes, señores, si tienen sentimientos, si saben lo que es calidad humana, que siente una madre cuando le matan a su hijo.
If you have any feelings or any sense of being a quality human being, you will take the time to talk to me about the murder of my son.
Y quiero decir que el señor Hugo Baeza tomó el caso de mi hijo y le he llamado y le he llamado y le he llamado y nunca me ha contestado y le he dejado mensajes. Y eso quiere decir que ustedes ocultan algo, porque atrás de mi hijo hay muchas muertes, que ustedes les ponen a nuestros hijos casos que no somos lo que ustedes dicen.
I am dying inside, dying of pain, because when you killed our sons, you give us the worst pain. It is the worst pain for us as mothers, for the police who we are supposed to trust to kill our sons, my son.
Yo sé que como es traducción se pierde mucho sentimiento, pero quiero que me vean cómo sufre una madre. Ustedes son padres y son madres y no les gustaría estar en este lugar donde estamos todos nosotros. Yo sé que el joven se prestó para traducirme, pero a él le cuesta trabajo, pero más de 20 aquí hablan español y están entendiendo mi sentimiento. Y quiero decirles que este era mi hijo. Este era mi hijo Arturo Torres, 27 años. Dejó a 2 hijos. Dejó a una madre y a un padre. Quiero decirles, señores, que todo lo que está escrito ahí arriba es una mentira porque no son respetuosos con nosotros. Yo sé y no estoy generalizando, pero que Dios los bendiga. De verdad, yo solo pido que Dios les dé sentimientos y entrenen a estos policías con calidad humana, porque no somos animales. Los animales son ellos. Gracias.
Look what y'all do to us mothers, though.
Thank you.
Look at the grief that we have.
Thank you.
And y'all don't even feel our pain, especially you, Mr. Johnson.
Thank you for coming down here today.
No,
Do you want to
thank you.
translate the last part there?
The last part?
You need translation from pain? You need translation from murder?
No comparison in the translation that was said, because the way that it was translated, you can't really tell what was said. You know, you lose emotion is what you said.
You can tell by the Spirit of God that was in this commission meeting, by the Spirit touching you, and I looked at each one of your faces. So you can tell by the Spirit of God and the conviction of God. The Bible says in Romans 13, it says, let every soul be subject unto the
Okay,
higher
sir.
powers, for all powers that are
Sir, we have a speaker.
God has placed you in position to serve with dignity, honor, respect. And when you break the oath of God, you break God's promise, and God will be paid. He says, vengeance is mine, saith the Lord.
Okay, sir, please have a seat so we can have our speaker.
Reverend K.W. Tulis, Western Regional Director of the National Action Network. Let me first off start by saying that the pain is real, and sometimes pain can come off as being laughable, but it's pain. And my pain and my sympathy goes to all the parents here today who's lost their children. Our children have been taken away from them. I stand here today, first of all, in the absence of the chief. It's been 2 years and about 2 weeks since the death of Ezel 4, and the officers that was found out of policy by this commission still has not been disciplined. And I'm coming here today to say to the commission to continue to put the pressure on the chief in regards to the discipline of those 2 officers in the Ezel 4 case. It's a shame to me that the chief lacks the courage in disciplining the officers. Also in May, the commission approved a revamp of the use of policy that was issued, and I wanted to just to continue to put the pressure on this commission to continue to press for that use of force policy. If those use of force policies was implemented, many of these families here today that's grieving will not be grieving. And so I'm asking you all to continue to ramp up your efforts in making sure that the police department carry out the policies that have been put forward. I want to say, I know you all get a lot of slack, but I believe that under the leadership of you, Matt Johnson, you have been very progressive in trying to make a change. And so at the end of the day, I want to also press for the body camera piece. I've heard that you all want to revisit these body cameras, and it's very important. We stand with the family of Jesse Romero and asking that these cameras and the body camera footage in Jesse Romero be released immediately. But we're saying to you that when you do revisit this body camera piece, that you make sure that the community is at the table, because we are asking for transparency, we're asking for accountability, and we're asking for citizens' rights. So we're here today to say that we're going to continue to press this commission. We're going to continue to press the chief, continue to do what you're doing, and continue to make policies that's going to prevent the death of children and families throughout our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Donald Brown.
Hello. And first of all, I am not here to disrespect any of you guys. You guys got one hell of a job to do. And I'm not to disrespect or make it not mean anything for the people that lost their kids. My daughter came home from UNLV 5 years ago and was shot on a Sunday morning. And I have lost 2 nephews for killing. One was at work, he got killed by gangbangers. But my main thing is, why aren't we protesting about the things that are going on in your communities and my community? Why aren't we? Hey, man, give me.
Excuse me. We respect the speaker. Respect the speaker and give him his time. If you have something to say, you can submit this is not a debate. It's not a debate. We let our speakers have their time.
Like right now, I'm not here against you guys. I have problems. My community have problems. I've lost relatives. So I'm not here to argue with you guys or disrespect you. And some of the things that really irritate me is we're here with problems too. We're here with problems too that has something to do with our community. But some of the things you people set up, you holler, you cuss, and when you do all that, you're taking a lot of the times, we have things in our community we like to talk about, things that do affect you. Gang violence. Kids can't go to school without getting beat up. You know, what else I have here? And where is the anger? Where is the tears? Where is the protest? I hear, yeah, but there's more than this. There's more than this. I understand. There's more to this issue. There's more than this one issue in our community. It's being.
Excuse me. This is not. He has his time. Give him his time.
We talk about. No, I'm just saying. No, I'm talking to my community. I'm talking to you guys because. We talk about we want respect from everybody. You want respect from the police, but we don't even give each other respect. Look at here. We all want justice. But the main thing, we got to give each other respect. And that's where it's going to start. And we can't respect you. Look at you. Someone can't respect me. I'm right here. I'm not this rich billionaire in the neighborhood. I'm living and struggling just like you guys. I have stage 4 cancer, but I'm here to talk about my community. And look at the respect. And we want respect from the police officers.
Quiet in the audience,
we want
please.
Respect from the committee. No, we want respect from the committee. Man, it's terrible. I feel like you should come here. I know, but that's the whole thing. That's the whole thing. Care about your community.
Order, please.
And a lot of you guys don't talk for everybody in the black community, okay? So realize that. A lot of people in the black community suffer. They're suffering. A lot of black people in the black community got shot. A lot of people got shot. So, yeah, but we got to take care of our black community. We got to do things. How do you guys volunteer in the community? Like I said, some of you guys come here one agenda, and that's just to start something and to make us look better.
Okay, can we have order, please?
Okay.
We can't get order.
Our next speaker, Lori. Okay, Lori's not present. The next speaker, Trevor Gerard.
Trevor Gerard is the next speaker?
Yes, sir.
Okay, can we have order, please? Okay, order, please.
Right, so number one, the whole bullshit about black-on-black crime is nonsense. Crime is interracial. People commit crimes within the vicinity, so coming up and doing the respectability politics is not what this is for. We're here for justice. We're not demanding respect from these people, right? Because the problem is that either these people, right, are liars or they're incompetent. It's one or the other. right? Or both at the same damn time. Because the thing is that we all know that when the war on drugs was started, that crime was actually falling. It was going down. And then you have things like the Military Cooperation with Local Law Enforcement Act of 1981, which is why your police officers run around and look like fucking paramilitary, right? So I'm going to use the word that nobody else is using. When you kill BLM has been peacefully protesting for 50 days now, right? And in a month's time, the LAPD killed 3 children. Jesse Romero was 14, Kenny Watkins was 18, and Richard Richards was 18, right? I'm going to use that state-sanctioned violence that you are complicit in. Genocide. That's a word we're not talking about. People have come to the camp to show support from the international community, people passing by from Germany or Sweden or whatever, and they say, we're watching, we see what's happening. The reason that nobody has brought you all in and tried you with crimes against humanity, right, is because that nobody in the international community has the muscle, economically or military, to bring you to justice. So I implore you, Ms. Hill, right, as someone who sits up here, to understand that the role of the Negro Whisperer is old, right? And if you allow them to use you in that way to appease us, right, then that is also, you are also complicit in the violence, and that is also part of your legacy, right? Fire Charlie Beck. Make a first step in some sort of reconciliation and give these people the justice that they're asking for.
Thank you. The next 5 speakers, Prentice Jenkins, Paula Miner, Rashida Kilpatrick, and Ted Hayes.
Prentice Jenkins, published the City Life newsletter, activist since 1991. You know, an activist gave a speech back in the 60s. He was talking about the house Negroes versus the field Negroes. Then he mentioned, he said, we got some of these house Negroes, Uncle Tom's, running around here protesting. Guess who he was talking about? He talking about Martin Luther King. He called Martin Luther King an Uncle Tom. Malcolm X did that. Malcolm X suggested that Martin Luther King was a house Negro. No one here believes that Martin Luther King was a house Negro or Uncle Tom, but Malcolm said it out of anger. Why did Malcolm say that? Because he had a different way of doing things from Martin Luther King. He didn't like that Martin Luther King was talking to the Kennedy administration. He didn't like that. He said, we need to go to war. That's what Malcolm X said. It's time to go to war. But Martin said, this ain't the time for war. This is the time to speak. This is the time for us to get together and talk about the issues, right? They ended up both being murdered. So whether Martin was right or Malcolm was right, they ended up the same. It's important that we sit down and start talking to each other. Believe it or not, I did an interview last week, Channel 4, as a supporter of Chief Beck's. Guess what? I'm in that plane with Chief Beck, and that plane's going down, and I'm saying, Chief, pull up, right? And everybody's looking at the plane going down, right? But I still believe we can pull the plane up. Through what? Through community policing. Through community interacting with the police. Through philanthropists. That's the only way to do it. It worked for us in the 90s, getting young gang members jobs in the community, and I'm still in support of the board. I know this can get done. But the only way to do it is if we actually do it. And we got to do it honestly, too. The police have to tell the truth, and the community has to tell the truth. That's the only way we can get it done, folks. Thank you.
I stand before you with Lisa Hines, the mother of Waukesha Wilson, who died in custody Easter Sunday, March 27th. And I think the things that I want to say can be best said by Mrs. Hines.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm real disappointed that Charlie Beck is not here because I needed to ask him a question. But maybe you can answer it for me, Matt Johnson. A couple of months ago, Charlie Beck told me that here in the meeting that he knew for a fact that my daughter Waukesha Wilson did not have an altercation with a detention officer. Do you recall that?
I do.
I need somebody on the board.
I don't recall his exact words.
You don't recall it? Okay. Okay. The lady that was up here speaking about her son, I don't even know Spanish, but I felt everything that woman was saying. Her baby got killed a month after mine. She said she's been waiting 4 months. I've been waiting 5 months. My eyes are puffy, red, irritated, because it was Saturday the 27th. It made 5 months since my baby was killed. I haven't heard anything from nobody. From nobody. And I keep asking, how did my baby die? Do you guys say it was a suicide? Hell no. I talked to her 7:45 that morning for 15 minutes. 20 minutes later, she was dead. But in between the time we hung up and the time they found her dead, she had an altercation with an officer. And then she was found dead. How did that happen? When she promised me she was going to call me back that evening.
Ms. Hines, the chief will be back the week after next.
For what? To tell me some more lies?
And if you'd like to meet with him, if you would like to meet with him along with your lawyer, he will gladly meet with you and he will share with you everything that he can share with you.
Well, okay, can you give him a message? Can you tell him to contact my lawyer, Carl Douglas?
I will
because
absolutely.
he wanted to talk to me. He sent one of his people to tell me that. So I told them to tell him to get in touch with my lawyer.
I will
which
make
is Carl
sure.
Douglas.
I will make sure that Mr. Douglas is contacted and a meeting is set up shortly after the chief's return.
Okay.
The next speaker, Rashida Kilpatrick. Ted Hayes. Followed by Terry Wilburn.
Some time ago, I indicated that we should simply allow the police commission and the department to do as they normally do. That means leave them to their own devices. This commission has been violating the Brown Act over and over and over again thoroughly. And complaints have been made about that, it's been pointed out, but there's been no change. Some time ago, the sheriff indicated he didn't want me in his jail. And I think LAPD should take the same position. Because when I was there last, I saw the signs that were incorrect about how you can make phone calls and whether they could monitor or tape record it. Now, I saw that, and unfortunately for the PD, I know that the signs were incorrect. Now, I'm told that the signs are gone now, although no one will allow me to go back in and inspect. But the fact is, when these unlawful assemblies were called, that terrorized the people who were out there in that lobby, because they remember May Day, when the helmets went on, the gas masks went on, the battalions came out, 3 different kinds of projectiles were fired, a woman lost her eye, all of that. So when an unlawful assembly is called, it's a terrorist threat, actually, when there is no unlawful assembly. I would have been concerned. I refused to leave. I said, arrest me, I'm not going. Well, they didn't do that, but that's not the issue. So twice, unlawful assemblies are called when there is no violence, which is required when that's done. But that's what I say, leave them to their own devices. They will violate the law on a federal scale, and that's what we can look forward to. They will violate the law constitutionally.
Terry Wilburn. Audrey George. Matt Harper and Martin Cornejo.
I'm Audrey.
Good morning.
It's fine that we're a smaller group because I'm really talking to y'all. I want to know why your crime statistics don't include the numerous instances where our increasingly militarized and militant PD has killed black and brown people, mostly unarmed, thereby acting as their judge, jury, and executioner. Your efforts to subsequently criminalize the majority of these victims in the press and official statements, where these victims will never have due process and their day in court, exemplifies your total lack of respect for the people of this city. Please stop the racialized policing that puts targets on the backs of black and brown people. Start holding LAPD officers accountable for criminal acts. Study the reports of these police killings, please. This is for the commissioners. Please study those reports and consider seriously how many of those killings would have happened if the victims had been white. Thank you.
Matt Harper. Martin Cornejo.
Ma'am, if you're interested in a extensive breakdown of all of the categorical uses of force, which include all officer-involved shootings, in early February or late January of this year, we released a report on all of those incidents for 2015. It's the most comprehensive of its kind in the country, and it breaks down every incident, weapons of the individuals involved, the races of individuals involved. So we do go through great pains to make that information available to the public in a much greater way than any other police department in the world.
But I believe it will show a huge dominance.
Take a look at the report. It's available online. It is all that information is there. Okay, next speaker, please. Ma'am, I was responding to your next speaker, please.
Martin.
Back to it, sir.
Martin Cornejo.
Yes. Well, compared to what everybody else has been talking about, mine is actually pretty petty. But first off, I would like to say my condolences to passed away people who, unfortunately, have been in these altercations. And, well, there's other methods that, could be practiced. You do have other guns besides a gun. You have a taser, right? Well, let me just say that a lot of the practices that should be practiced have not been practiced, and I'm not gonna specify on a certain person, certain group, certain area, or whatnot, but I am tired of being bullshitted and run around, sorry for the vulgarity, but run around the city and looking just to find out a badge number, a name, or whatnot. It's ridiculous. I don't like it. If you don't have a reason to arrest me, please do not, arrest me. If you cannot come up to me when I ask you, is there a reason why you're arresting me? Don't do it. You're supposed to have a reason, right? I don't like the fact that last time I got detained, I was not allowed to read the ticket. They made a big fuss about reading the ticket. This is what I'm signing off to. This is what they're charging me with. They could be charging me with all sorts of crimes, and they don't want me to sign it. They want me to sign it. They don't want me to read it. I could be freaking getting charged for murder for all they fucking know, and they just want me to sign it. It's ridiculous. All these practices should be practiced, and I'm pretty sure I'm using the word appropriate, but I implore you to do it, please. It's your job. It's not a lot, yeah, I'm sorry, you guys do have a difficult job. You have to, look it around, and you have to profile a lot of people. You have to, you have to do what's hard. I understand that, but there are other methods. And thank you for your time.
Thank you for your time.
Everybody has a great day.
Yeah, Mr. Commissioner President, just as a reminder to the speaker that anytime you have an encounter with a Los Angeles police officer, if you're not happy with the service you believe...
I was going to bring that up, actually. I know that everybody
Sir,
has...
Sir, your time is up. Your time is up.
Okay.
The chief is going to respond, but this is not a back and forth.
Right, and that is just that it sounds like you're aware of the...
They took it off.
Okay, thank you.
It is, right?
You have the ability to make a complaint,
and we encourage you to do so if you feel that you were treated disrespectfully or inappropriately. And we'll investigate that, and the Office of the Inspector General also has the ability to oversee that investigation to ensure that the department takes the appropriate action.
Remember, like, apparently corrupt, you know, the guy, whatever the fuck his name is, excuse me, but he's still right there. He's not even
Okay,
here.
thank you, sir.
Everybody's talking about him. But
Call the next speaker, please.
The next speakers, sir, can you state your name?
Yes, sorry, it's Matt Parker.
Oh, Matt Harper. Okay. Matt Harper.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Hi.
Morning.
Morning. I've been here for a number of weeks now. You know, being white and of a certain income level, I haven't had a lot of personal experiences with a lot of officers that I know some of my fellow people have here. Just a couple weeks ago, I was in my neighborhood, which is not a lower income neighborhood and mostly probably a white neighborhood. And there's a number of officers stationed with the area roped off. And I asked one of the officers what had happened. And I'm an actor, and he recognized me, and he, I think, thought that I was like, you know, buddy. He told me the situation. At the end of it, he said, "Don't worry, we beat him up," and walked away. And I was shocked, and I was shocked. And I've only firsthand, you know, I hear all these experiences. Now I get to see more of them. The more I read, you know, the more I sort of step outside my own bounds of kind of what it means to be a white guy. I'm sort of starting to understand more and more about these experiences. And I get to see even the microcosm in here, right? Like we see this guy right here. I tried to follow Jasmine out with my cell phone before. He put his hand on me. He put his hand on me and said I couldn't leave. He put his hand on me, right, after I'm following her out. This guy right here said that if I left, I couldn't come back in. These things are both untrue and false, and there's no reason to assume that people wouldn't take the liberties that they would otherwise in the communities, and especially not in the meeting in front of their bosses, and not with someone who is white. And I think that's something that we really need to look at, because that's a culture problem, right? And that starts with Beck, you know, and you can't expect the community just to trust you. I mean, we have to, you know, it has to be about earning the trust. I think, I'd imagine you guys would understand why they wouldn't trust you. I mean, just the long history, even the things that happen now, you know, this thing with the police officer and the texting of the child and Baca. I mean, this stuff it's all in there, and it doesn't happen with one person, right? It's everyone sort of covering for each other. So I really implore that you guys look inward and, you know, be thankful these people are here helping you make the changes that I think you really know that you need to make. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, and we'll look into make sure that all the officers are familiar with the rules of entering and leaving.
The next speaker, Kai Utsumi, not present. Lisa Hines, not present. DA, not present. Nia Amina, oh, DA is here? Okay. Thank you.
Not as many people present in the room, though, as earlier. Greetings. My name is D.A. I'm a local Rastafarian. I want to start, first of all, I'm compelled to say that 2 weeks ago, death threats were made against myself and my family by the NSA through presumably an agent of the LAPD in the LAPD jurisdiction. I'm compelled by the situation to expose these matters publicly, and I'll go on to the points that I wanted to make. For those that ended the meeting last week and who would like to understand the urgency of activists, one of the things that really aggravate people are the fake tricks, the sort of dissociated state of mind that you go into where you believe that you're tricking people. For instance, the LAPD proactively enacting body cameras early on so that they could limit and control the release of videos, and also to get good PR. That's a trick. They were active in saying, oh yeah, we want to have body cameras. The reason was they wanted to limit the actual release of these videos. This is a trick. They're not tricking anybody. Okay, and this is what we're fighting against. Not the stated goals of the LAPD, but what they actually do. Okay, and this new family liaison program. I read Charlie Beck in the LA Times saying that he wanted to explain the process to people. This is an opportunity to mess people over and to refuse to give them information. It's not a situation in which they're trying to give information. It's a trick. What we want is real substance. We want sped up investigations. We want the officers who commit these crimes of killing citizens without cause to be punished and prosecuted. We want the commission to have their findings to be enforceable, so that they don't just make findings and they're not enforced. And we want even more community representation on the board. And these childish, simplistic tricks need to stop. These are secret police tactics. I say once again, no secret police. No secret police.
Thank you for your comments,
no
sir.
Secret police.
Call the next speaker, please.
The next speaker, Nia Amina, who's not present, and Diane Quick.
Good morning.
Not really prepared. I just decided to come here. I'm Diane Quick. I'm from Springfield, Ohio. I've been out here since 1968. I was just attacked in my building about 20 minutes ago before I came here. I tried to come maybe in August or something a few months ago, but I was refused because I have Jake and Barkley, my 9-year-old Jack Russell, and Barkley, my little poo Jack. They're dangerous. I was raped 3 times in my apartment. I live in a Section 8 HUD Hackle building. I have an imminent eviction lockout tomorrow by midnight. I represented myself against Judge Gale, with Judge Gale, Ruderman Fuhr, who's marvelous. She encouraged me to appeal the case, which I will do. And oddly enough, I said, "Are you any relation to Mike Fuhr, my hero?" He's my husband. He's the city attorney. I will meet with him next. I was accused of gangland activity by 2 of the tenants. Actually, 3 of the tenants have restraining orders on me, which were issued February 26th. I spent 4 days in the glass house, April 15th through the 19th. They don't feed you in the glass house. You get a bun, maybe. Your toilet doesn't work. If you shit in your thing, Officer, what's her name, said, I don't know how much time I have left. Anyway, they don't feed you in the glass house. I'm tired of this. I don't care if I get evicted. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to stay. I've gone through too much. I've lived there 4 years. The other thing I want to say is I was raped 2010, and I've reported this to Rampart. Rampart's great. I love many of them, Espinoza, Zizzo. I can name them Optent. When I call 511, 911 and say it's Unit 511 at 626 South Alvarado, Parkview on the Park, is this Diane? I don't want to be that notorious. I don't want that kind of notoriety. It's not my time.
That's your time. Thank you for your time, ma'am.
I was raped, and the guy said Lucifer has now, the white woman is near death. Lucifer has won. That was 2010. Also, I have to get this in. There was a snitch that held me captive from July through August 25th. I was almost killed down at the Olympic. This is no joke. I've reported this to Sergeant Rich at Rampart. What are they going to do? The 3 rapes. If I'm evicted tomorrow, there's no crime scene. This was last year.
Ma'am, if you'd like to talk to us further,
Yes, I would.
Okay,
Yes, I
so
would.
if you'll
I'm
do this
available.
for me a favor.
I've got nothing but time. My
Lieutenant
lockout
Mathis,
is midnight
if
tomorrow.
you'd have
I've got 24 hours.
a DSVD camp contact here.
You're talking to me.
I'm sorry, right here. So what we want to do is we'd like to talk with you further about your home situation, and Lieutenant Mathis will talk with you. Thank you.
Okay, there are no other comment cards on public comment. We're now on item number 5. We do have comment cards. We have 2 cards on 5A1, 1 card on 2, and 1 card on 3. The 2 cards for 5A1 are Ted Hayes and Michael Novick. This is relative to the in-custody death number 07915.
I submitted a request to Mr. Chief Bank under Government Code Section 12525. What that says, paraphrasing, is that whenever there's an in-custody death, the police department must provide to the state attorney general a complete report of how the incident occurred and all the personnel involved within 10 days. And this report is a public record, freedom of information, whatever you wish to call it. So I got a response back from Mr. Chief Bank, which was empty rhetoric. He didn't deny the particular government code section, but he didn't respond to it either. So that leads me to believe, has the LAPD ever done this in an in-custody death? Did they do it in the most recent in-custody death? Whatever, leaving the department, administrative staff, whatever, to their own devices, they don't do what the law says they must do. So anyway, we're taking this up with the Attorney General, see what they are going to do in response to this. But more importantly, someone should respond to Government Code Section 12525. Because I heard Mr. Johnson indicate it would take 10 or 11 months to indicate what's happening with Sandra Bland, the alleged suicide. I suggested if you do go to the Metropolitan Detention Center, look at the telephone cards and ask how could they be manipulated, strung together, so a person could commit suicide by hanging on a telephone card. Government Code Section 12525.
Michael Novik.
Yeah, week after week we come here and you have 2 or 3 of these items: officer-involved shootings, dog attacks, in-custody deaths, and out of sight. You do the same thing you do in public. It's a rubber stamp. In the few cases where you have actually found them out of policy, Chief Beck did nothing. He said he's going to be covering his officers like a Kevlar vest. And so you've done nothing about the fact that you found the killing of Giselle Ford out of policy and nothing happened. So that's on you. I'm not a religious person, but I do remember some of the biblical stories I learned as a child, and one of them is about a great emperor who suddenly on the palace walls appears the words Tekel, Tekel, Meneu, Farsin, and all his advisors can't figure it out, so they call him one of the Old Testament prophets. And he says, oh, that means you've been weighed and found wanting. Your days are numbered. So, yes, you can tell us your time is up, but your time is up.
And we have Mr. Novik on item number 5A2. Mr. Novik? 5A3? Okay. We have no other comment cards. The Board of Police Commissioners will now recess into closed session to discuss item numbers 5A1, 2, and 3 in accordance with Government Code 54957.
Good job.
For the
The Board of Police Commissioners has concluded its work in closed session. We are back in open session. In closed session, item number 5A1 was discussed, and the Chief's recommendations were unanimously adopted. In closed session, item number 5A2 was discussed and the chief's recommendations were unanimously adopted. And in closed session, item number 5A3 was discussed and the chief's recommendations were unanimously adopted. Mr. President, is there a motion to adjourn?
We have a motion?
So moved.
And we have a second. All in favor? Aye. We're closed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jen Mahoney in Studio City. You're watching LA City View Channel 35, where you can get the best in culture and arts. It's our city, it's our channel.
Hey, just go!
The more we get together